Hello, my name is David Webb, and this is a video for Dweebovision. I am a Scrabble grandmaster, and in this video I am going to play Scrabble while providing in-game commentary on my moves. Hopefully this will help to improve your game, and be fun to watch. The game has just started, so let's join the action. It's me to go first. This looks pretty good, but do I have a bingo? I have savage, that's a 6-letter word, and I'm one short of savagest. I don't think vastage is good, so I don't think there is a bingo here, in which case I'm going to play vag, and the rack leave of AEST is pretty good. And this looks promising. Is there a 7? The B and the G don't go that well together, but this looks a really promising rack. Botigas is good with 2 T's. Is it good with 1? Not sure. What about the floaters? Sabotage through the A. Well, that may be taken. Vag does take an I and an S after it, so my opponent could play in column 10, in which case sabotage would remain available. Can't see anything through the G. I've got boat as a 4-letter word, which might be a component of a 7 or 8-letter bingo. And I've got the AGE ending. I don't think Botigas works with 1 T, but it might do. I think Bodegas is good with a D, and Botigas is with 2 T's. Now, are there any other letters which go to make an 8-letter word? I should think about this while I've got time. Okay. Great, sabotage remains available. Fantastic. But do I have anything through the B? No, I don't think I do. And I'm going to play sabotage up here to avoid it's stopping 1 square short of the triple word square. And given that my opponent has played off an S quite cheaply, he may have another S. So, sabotage 62. Not so great. 2 U's together isn't a good combination, and I've also got a Y. I think it may be difficult to get rid of both U's, but if I played YOU, then the rack lead of CENU is not a disaster. The N helps to lessen the badness of the U because of the UN prefix. And C goes quite well with U and N as well. Uncoy is good. That would leave me with 2 vowels. Now, YOU does play in column 11, making BY. 19 points, not a huge score. And it also plays in column 9 alongside sabotage, which would take out 3 of its floaters. 17 points, again, pretty miserly score. It would be nice to play off both U's and the Y, but I'm not sure that that's possible on this board. Yuzu is good through a Z, were it to be played. There's no T for the out prefix, and in any event I can't see a good way of using that. I'm looking at the floaters in sabotage to see if I've got anything good. Ah, well, I've got bouncy through the B. 26 points, that's worth thinking about. One of the problems with playing U in column 11 and making by is that U takes an R and an S and a K after it, which is providing quite a good opportunity for my opponent. And bouncy is far less exploitable. Now, Oi doesn't take any letters after it that I have. And I'm looking in column 12 to see if I can play alongside Bo and I with anything useful. Well, U does play here. Let me see what this scores. 22 points, the rack leave of CENU. If I played bouncy, I'd be playing off N and C and leaving a really unbalanced rack leave for only 4 more points. So I think this is preferable, even though I am opening up row M for the hooks onto U. Well, that could have been a lot worse. Through a T, I would have Ducento. This does look pretty close to a bingo. Can't see a 7 letter bingo. What about the S of sabotage? I note that I have the D for putting on the end of sabotage, so if I don't find a bingo, I'm likely to have a decent play in row K. Coude, for example, C-O-U-D-E. 29 points, that's pretty good. But I wouldn't want to overlook a bingo. Now through an N I would have enounced. No N's on this board. And also denounce. So I've got the ED ending. Thousand isn't good. Okay, I'm struggling to see a bingo through the S. Although it looks quite tantalising. The A doesn't look particularly promising because I've already got 4 vowels. What about the B? So I've got bounced as a non-bingo, leaving an E. That's not going to be a great score. But at least it's an alternative to the Coude spot if the sabotage hook is taken. Can't see anything to the O of sabotage, and the T is not available for a bingo. Now boy in row J does take an O at the end. Now my opponent has provided another floater. He's provided the T of tribals. So is there a bingo through that? So I've got the out prefix. Okay, I can't see a bingo through that. Now I've got the O for going after boy, and I'll put this on the board to show you, and the N for going here. I've got nothing for going after the U, so that's the end of that exercise. So this is what I was thinking of. Rack leave of EN is balanced. No 2-letter rack leave is ever going to be great. Too many random tiles to be drawn to be sure of good bingo prospects. 29 points is a good score. Well, I have some scoring tiles in the H and the Y. I've got a 60-point lead at this point, but my opponent's on turn, so that's not such a big lead, and it would vanish if he bingoed. Nice play, 31 points. So I have a 30-point lead at the moment. Now I don't want to miss a bingo. But there aren't many floaters to consider. The S of sabotaged is the main one. There's also the T of tribals and the C of Coude. Okay, now what I want to do with this rack is score, play off the Y, possibly the H as well, And try not to have too unbalanced a rack leave. Now a play of honey would leave EI, which is unbalanced. I do have the H for going underneath the C of Kude. I wonder if I can use that. Well, I can, but it's not great. I could play YEH, leaving EINO. That's pretty poor. I have got Sheeny across here. Let me see what this scores. It takes out the S as a useful floater for my opponent. 32 points is a good score. Rack leave is not good, but I was struggling to see any move which left a good rack leave. I'm just looking in column 13 to see if I have anything utilising the Boyo hook. But the trouble is IO only takes an N. Well, UI does take an H, so I'd be looking for something with ONH. Okay, can't see anything there. So Sheeny for 32 points has got a lot of merit to it. The rack leave is poor and vulnerable. Let's see what happens. Well, swamped with vowels and no scoring tiles, so I'm going to struggle to score, and that's the risk you take when you leave yourself with a rack leave of just IO. But I do have a 60-point lead. Now my opponents, have I just missed something really big? I'm just looking at Thrawn and I'm thinking that it takes an E after it. I'm not sure that it does. I think it does, in which case honey was playable in column 14 for 47 points. I think that was an oversight. Okay, I need to focus on the rack in hand. I'm looking around to see what floaters are available. Not to bingo, but just to score reasonably well. I'm looking in row D between Sheeny and Tribals. That's not good for me because I do want to play off an I. Duplicate I is a bad combination. Through a D I would have iodine, and that would certainly sort out the vowel imbalance. I could play ion in column 13, making Boyo and ion. 16 points. That is better than changing. Rack leave of EEIT, pretty unbalanced. I could get lucky and draw a lot of consonants, but it's not a good idea to be so reliant on luck. The C of Kude is not in a good position for scoring if I were to play vertically. Now, only 14 points for my opponent. Has he provided a good scoring opportunity for me? Well, I've only got the O and the E for going in front of I, and I'd want the O to go in front of the W. So I'm looking for a word with TO in it. And I can't see a way of playing off any of my I's if I do that. Now, what about iron down here? 16 points, that's really poor. But I have not seen anything better. That's pretty good. Through an A I would have alienate. And I may have a bingo here. There may be a 7. Onto a D I would have entailed or lineated. 3 Ds are unplayed, so my opponent may play one of those. I don't think I have anything through the I of iwi. So what's left to consider is the C. So do I have a bingo with the C? It'll be pretty high probability if I do. If one of my E's was an A, I would have anal sight and laetance. So I've got the IC ending and the ANC ending. Nothing is springing to mind. And I think the I of iwi and the C of kude are the only floaters. I have a 7, I have lineate, and my opponent has provided a spot for it. Wow. That would have been a shocking oversight, especially as I'd considered that I had lineated through onto a D. Gosh. That was a near miss. But it's often the case that bingos sometimes take a while to pop into your mind, even when they're ones you do know. So lineate and Dean 74 points. Nothing that I've got goes in front of MY, and I don't think there's any anagrams of lineate. Well, not a good rack, but I now have a 140 point lead. So I'd like to hold on to this lead. Now through an N I would have jiving, and onto an R I would have jivia. Neither of those is available. Jig would leave a rack leave of EIVT, which is not bad. And I could play that at C1. The J's not a particularly dangerous tile. The risk of a 9 timer with the J in third place is really tiny. And a 6-letter play beginning with J is, well, not particularly common. And wouldn't be deadly even if my opponent played it. So I quite like jig at C1. 28 points. Now, can I use the triple letter square above the O of kude? No, I was going to think, I thought I had G, but EU isn't good. Joe would be a nice 50-point plus play there, if I had an O. I don't. Now, I mustn't ignore the front hooks for iron in column 13. They are C and L and P. So if I have either of those, any of those tiles, I should at least consider that. It's not a hugely high-scoring spot. Okay, nice bingo by my opponent. 76 points. He's now only 42 points behind, and he's taken out my jig spot. He has not provided the floaters I was looking for in the right place. Can't see anywhere to play anything. I certainly don't want to keep 2 eyes. So is there anywhere for jive? I've got 11 minutes left, 23 tiles left, so I'm not in time trouble. Got is good. No O's in the right place. Well, now I can play jive here. And this is quite good because it takes out a good bingo lane because the F takes an E in front of it. So this stops my opponent playing a 7-letter word ending in E. Scores very well, sorts my rack out somewhat, and the V above the triple word square stops my opponent from using it. So that's pretty good. And this is pretty bad. Only 1 vowel, which really reduces the number of words I can make with this rack, and it's going to be difficult to sort it out in one go. I don't think whisk, W-I-S-K, is good. I'm looking at H1. Disc is good. That's 42 points. Well, the rack leave is going to be atrocious, G-T-T-W, but if 42 points are available, that's certainly better than changing. I think D-Wit is good. That would play in row B, but I'm not sure about it. It might just be whited. Now both blanks are unseen, and with only 19 tiles in the bag, my opponent could well have one of them. And it's quite a bingo-y board. There are 7-letter bingo lanes in columns 2 and row O. 2 such lanes in row O. And also column 15 is available because NEM takes an S on the end. And column 14 is a bingo lane. And in particular, Boyo's is good, so it's a 7-letter bingo lane for bingos ending in S. I do have a 70-point lead, which is a bingo's lead, so a bingo by my opponent would bring him right back in it and we'd be neck and neck. So, apart from disc, I've seen nothing. I'm looking at the O of sabotage. I'm really looking at the vowels on the board to see if I can play through them. But there are not many vowels in good spots. Well, 94 points, that's a huge score for my opponent. Very nice bingo. He now takes a 17-point lead, and I have a dreadful rack. And he may have drawn the second blank. But disc is available. Great. Haven't seen anything better. The tiles that are left are not particularly bingo-y. The blank clearly is, but there are no S's, only one E, 2 R's, and the Q's available, and there's a glut of A's. So my opponent is certainly not guaranteed to bingo. Well, in some ways I'm glad to have a vowel because it makes... It's so much better than having no vowels at all. So although you can look at this and groan that you haven't got 2 or more vowels, one should be grateful for having the one. There are 7 vowels left, 16 tiles left, so it's a slightly dry bag for vowels. Which is good in a way. It may restrict my opponent's ability to bingo, and he is behind. Now I have the P for going in front of ion, so I could play paw, P-A-W. 30 points. A 30-point play is always a nice thing to have. What else is available? Boyo only takes an S after it. The spot above the O of Kude is still not usable. Well, my 30-point play has been taken by my opponent, scoring 30-odd points. He now takes a 9-point lead. I've got 9 minutes left on the clock. There are 6 tiles in the bag. There are some great scoring tiles in the Q and the Z. But what can I do? I'm looking in row F to see if I can use that triple letter square. I don't have anything to go in front of Iwi, so I'd have to play through that E. IT does take an A, but I don't want to burn the A as it's if I don't have to. Now I could play few across here. The bad thing about that is it retains 2 T's and there's a T unseen in the bag, and also 24 points is not a great score, and I am opening up column 1. My opponent could burn the blank and play spaz for a big score. And the rack leave just isn't particularly good. Can I do better than 24 points? I could play few in the same spot, sorting out the duplicate T and retaining a scoring tile, but the score for that is pretty low. Now, what about playing through the A of lax? Well, I could play what? WHT. $20 points. Well, some merit in that. Now, what about what down here? Doesn't open up anything for my opponent. 25 points, slightly better score. Rack leave of GPT is okay. Better than the other rack leaves I've been considering. Doesn't leave a duplicate T, keeps a scoring tile in the P, and I'm drawing 4 tiles, not 3, which increases my chances of drawing the blank and a vowel. So can I do better than what? And it's also taking out a 7-letter bingo lane for well, beginning at 01. Yeah, I like this. And I draw a good scoring tile in the Z. Only 1 vowel. 2 tiles in the bag. My opponent's got a pretty good rack. He may have a bingo. If he doesn't, I've got the zeta at F2. I think if he bingos, he wins because I'm only 16 points ahead. I'm going to struggle to go out in 2, and if he bingos, he'll only have 2 tiles, so he probably will be able to go out. But the Q may hamper his bingo prospects, but since there's a U and a blank unseen, he may have a high-scoring, non-bingo Q play. He could certainly play Qua at F14 for 32 points. But that wouldn't guarantee him a win. He's got less than 5 minutes on his clock. I've got just over 6 minutes. So neither of us has got a lot of time, but neither of us is in time trouble. What I'd like to do is identify some more good Z spots. Now there is the Z above the spot above the O of Kude. But I don't have anything brilliant through that. I've got Fez in row B. 30 points, that's quite nice, retains the blank. This may well be the last letters I have. If my opponent plays 2 tiles or more, he empties the bag. In which case my A becomes quite precious. So I play a Fez. Okay. Now my A can actually go above Qua to make Aqua. My opponent's got a pretty good rack. I can see exactly what he's got at the bottom of the screen. So, does he have a bingo? Do I need to block it? The obvious spots is column 1 through the D of disc. So, something with road in, perhaps. I don't have to spot the bingo to block it. Now I'm thinking about playing, well, do I play Zeta? I'm 16 points behind. The trouble with Zeta is that it burns the Z. Sorry, it burns the A. Scores 36 points. Rackley's pretty ropey. So an alternative, but it does obstruct the D. It would be really helpful to know if my opponent had a bingo with these tiles. So I've got 5 minutes. I'm going to spend a minute just running through the blank for my opponent, imagining he's also got the D. I'm up to B and I haven't seen anything yet. Up to F. Up to H. In particular, he's got the IER ending and he's got the ED ending. So I'm up to H. I'm considering N. Ordainer. Okay, he's got Ordainer and Reordain. Okay, I can block both of those, but I have to go... well, I can block them. I'll consider how in a minute. So that removes my considerations of playing through the first E of deciders, because Ordainer, that doesn't block Ordainer. So that's the N. Now my particular consideration is if there's a bingo beginning with the D. I can't see one beginning with the D, so the only ones I've seen are Ordainer and Reordain. In which case, why not play Zeta? Maximizes the score. I don't have to do that. I can play Zep. That's much better. Zep for 34 points. Only 2 points less than Zeta. Yep. And it blocks Reordain. It blocks Ordainer. I'm keeping the A for going in front of Qua to play Fag or Fat. I've also got the E of deciders, so I could play Feta through that, which are scoring plays. I've got FA at B6 for 28 points. So I think Zep is the play, but my opponent may still have a winning bingo. He's got, well, he's had a lot of time to think about it, and he's got 3 more minutes to find it, if there is one. I think I'm going to spend my time considering my options, because certainly if my opponent bingos, he does win. Adroiter, yep. That wins, okay. Yep, that's spelled right, so pass to end the game. Good spot by my opponent. The final score, 385 to me, 443 to my opponent. A winning margin of 58 points. So well done to my opponent. Good spot of that bingo at the end. If I had spotted it, there probably were opportunities to block it. So it'll be interesting to see if there were any alternative bingos. Now, let's see what I missed. So it was me to go first. Great, I didn't miss a bingo here, and well, my play is better because it retains the E. Sabotage was the only bingo, so Batiga's not good. U at J12, that was my play. Kude, that was my play. Yeah, this is the 47-point play making Frawny in column 14 that I saw after making my own play, so it certainly would have been better than Sheeny. This was a really tricky rack, all of the options there, very low scoring. But probably better than Ion. I think most of looking at the top 6 choices, they're all burning off one more vowel. Lineate, quite fortunate to be given a spot to play that. Nice bingo by my opponent. This is where I played Jive at N6, that looks fine. Rampole, good bingo by my opponent. Let's just see what else he had. Rampole, Maypole and Ampole. This was a pretty awful rack, but I'm glad that disc was available. It did at least score well. Weight at F2. Ah, I see, coming down column 2. Now at this point I was only 9 points behind, so weight would have had some merit in obstructing the floating D and I of disc and scoring well. 30 points was a good score. What I did instead was which, well, that also has merit because it does take out row O, which was a bingo lane. Now my opponent played Qua, and, well, what this program doesn't do is realise that give consideration to the bingos that my opponent has. But knowing now that he has a Droiter, did I have a better blocking play? Well, I could have played Gate. No, I couldn't. GE isn't good. I don't have a word beginning FAI. Well, I certainly could have played... What could I have played? Well, Tate would do it. T-A-I-T, but it burns the A. Doesn't score very much. So it may well not be a winning play, because by playing that, my opponent may be able to win without needing to bingo. I am 16 points behind at this point. So it's an interesting spot to consider. Fez certainly, Zep certainly loses because it doesn't block a Droiter. I don't think any of the options shown block a Droiter. Ah, a Droiter was the only bingo. Well, what should I have done? This was the rack. I don't think FAIT is good, otherwise that would be the play at F2 down. So if a Droiter is the only winning bingo, I'm 16 points behind. Wow, what an interesting situation. I think the play must be in row F. It's surprising with the P and the F both playable at F2 and the A to go in front of the R that I don't have a play coming down column 2, but I don't think I do. Well, how interesting. What was the play in this position? Well, if you can think of a play which blocks a Droiter and wins, please leave a note in the comments below, because I can't see it right now. And my opponent did then
play Adroiter and win. So well done to him. An interesting game, quite a few bingos and some tricky racks to consider. Certainly Honey was an oversight, and I think the play at the end in terms of blocking Adroiter was also one which is really interesting. And it's not just a case of blocking Adroiter, you've got to block Adroiter and to be able to go on and win, which may not have been possible. There may not be a winning play. Anyway, always interesting to play Scrabble. Every game throws up many interesting racks to consider, and that is the attraction of the game. So I hope you enjoyed watching that and got something out of it. My name is David Webb, and this has been a video for Dweebovision.